Hello there. In this video, we're going to go over some additional examples of adding and subtracting fractions. So I've got 4 of them here for you. And the main trick that we want to think of in this video is we want to think least common multiple. We want to use the knowledge that we have of least common multiples because when we're adding or subtracting, we got to find what's called a common denominator. And the common denominator will be whatever the least common multiple of those two numbers is. And I shouldn't say it's going to be the least common multiple. The least common multiple just makes our lives easier. It reduces the chances that we have to reduce our fractions at the end. If you find the common multiple that's just multiplying the two numbers together, that's okay, but you will have to reduce in the end. So 12 and 7, I know that 12 and 7 have a common divisor of 1, so that means I can find the least common multiple by multiplying 12 by 7 and 7 by 12. And as I said in the last video, we can't just do it to the bottom, we have to do it to the top as well. So this becomes 5 times 7 is 35, and I know that 12 times 7 is 84, plus 3 times 12 is 36, and then over 84. And we always want those denominators to be the same when we're adding or subtracting. So our final answer will be whatever that denominator is, and then we just have to add the numerators together. So 35 plus 36 will give me 71. Now, let's look to see if we can reduce this. I know that 71 is a prime number, and that 84 is not, so it's also not a multiple of 71. So their greatest common divisor is 1, which means I can't reduce this. I'm going to leave it as is. Okay, so let's look over a subtraction problem now. 9 halves, minus 3 over 5. So again, we're going to look for a common multiple between 2 and 5. This is very common to know that these greatest common divisors is 1. So I can multiply this by 5 and multiply this by 2. But again, whatever I'm doing to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So I'm multiplying 9 by 5 and I'm multiplying 3 by 2. Okay, so let's do our computations. 9 times 5 is 45, and that's over 10, minus 3 times 2 is 6, and this is over 10. And again, when we're adding or subtracting fractions, our final answer will be in whatever the denominator is, the common denominator is. So then we just do 45 minus 6 is 39. Now, can we reduce this? Well, 39 has factors of 3 and 13, and 10 has factors of 2 and 5, so they don't have any common factors to reduce. So 39 over 10 will be my reduced rational number. If you want to go ahead and convert this to a mixed number, by all means, but in my mixed number improper fraction video, I mentioned how I want my numbers to be written in improper fraction form, so I'm going to leave this. All right, another addition fraction problem. We got 5 6 plus 2 9s. Let's go ahead and figure this out using the least common multiple. And then if you want at the end of the video, I can show you the way, if we didn't find the least common multiple, if we just used a common multiple, what that would look like. So the least common multiple of 6 and 9, I know they have a common multiple of 18. So that means I would be multiplying this by 3, and therefore this by 3. And to get 9 to 18, I have to multiply by 2 and multiply this by 2. So 5 times 3 is 15 over 18, plus 2 times 2 is 4 over 18. And once again, my final answer will be out of 18. 15 plus 4 is 19. And again, you can write that as the mixed number 1 and 1/18. I'm going to go ahead and leave it as such. Now let's go ahead and do the last problem involving subtraction, and this time involving mixed numbers. It's tempting when adding and subtracting mixed numbers to want to do 2 minus 1 and then convert the 7/8 and 4/5 to common denominators and then subtract the fractional parts. But you get into tight situations. If you're adding them, you might add them to get them something greater than 1, which case you'd have to add that to the whole number part. And if you're subtracting, if you get a negative, then you got to work through additional operations. It's often a mess. I always recommend convert to improper fractions. This is another reason why I like improper fractions, because almost all our computations with fractions are done in improper fraction form. So converting 2 7/8, 2 times 8, that'd be 16, plus the 7 is 23 over 8. And we'll worry about the common denominator next. I'm just converting to improper fractions. And then we've got 1 times 5 is 5, plus 4 is 9 over 5. And now let's go ahead. I know that 8 and 5 have a common factor of 40, so I'll multiply this by 5 and this by 8. So our common denominator will be out of 40. 23 times 5, that would be 20 times 5 is 100, plus an additional 3 times 5, so that's 115. And then 9 times 8 is 72. And then 115 minus 72, I'll just go ahead and work that out longhand. 5 minus 2 is 3. We'll borrow from there. 11 minus 7 is... And that leaves us with our final answer of 43 over 40. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at that 5, 6 plus 2 9ths problem. But let's look at it as we are doing it with a common multiple and not necessarily the least common multiple. So we already saw the least common multiple is 18. But what if you just went ahead and said, I'm just going to multiply this by 9 and this by 6? We can do that. And so I'll multiply this by 9 and this by 6. So 5 times 9, that's 45. And I know 6 times 9 gives me a common denominator of 54. And then 2 times 6 is 12. And so this is where we have to then work through. 45 plus 12 is 57 over 54. Now, if you do it with a common multiple and not the least common multiple, you will have to reduce, okay? So 57 and 54, I can see they both have a common divisor of 3. Again, just check with our divisibility rules. 5 plus 7 is 12, so that divides 3. And I believe that gives us 19 up top. And then we can do the same. 5 plus 4 is 9, so that divides out 3. And that gives us 18, which was the same answer. So if you take the time and mental fortitude to go through and find out the least common multiple, you will save yourself some work on the back end. Whereas if you don't, you will then have to simplify at the end. It's personal preference. You will have to decide that for yourself. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. If you have any ideas for future videos, let me know. Thanks for watching.